You know when someone tells you they're totally fine, but everything about their face says otherwise? That's the vibe I get every time I look at Zac Efron's career twists, his bizarre injuries, and his sudden yacht trips with powerful men. The talk in town is that Zac isn't just cruising on luxury boats for fun.
Zac Efron earns a big payday while on a luxurious yacht with older men. His net worth has increased by $5 million from other ventures outside of acting.
Why would somebody with multiple stints in rehab vacation in Ibiza?
Insiders whisper he's stuck in a cycle of manipulation, blackmail, and control. And the latest leaks suggest he's finally starting to crack under the weight of it all. So today, I'm connecting the dots from his Disney beginnings to the handlers pulling strings, to the yacht culture perks, to the whispers of blackmail. And by the end, you'll see why Zac's story is way bigger than just vacations on the water.
Speaking of yachting, it is very, very rare that the Svengali lets the former Disney actor out of his sight during yachting season.
The actor from A Family Affair joined a group of friends on a yacht.
Whispers online hint that Zac's name has been floating in yacht gossip circles for well over a decade. Hollywood chatter claims he became one of the yacht boys, the male equivalent to the yacht girls people always talk about during Cannes and Saint-Tropez season. These are stars who suddenly appear on billion-dollar boats, surrounded by elite men, and always seem to come back from these trips with new deals, new wardrobes, and in Zac's case, a noticeably bigger bank account.
Fortunately, it can sometimes get a bit seedy, a bit creepy with drunk people who think they can do whatever they want. These owners, these millionaires, these billionaires, they're incredibly powerful people, and a lot of the time they get their own way. It's an incredibly secretive world which no one really knows much about. The guests just use super yachts as their little playground. They live in this little bubble where they think anything goes and anything can happen.
A Svengali is a person who controls others with powerful mental manipulation.
Zac Efron is allegedly a yacht boy.
Word behind the scenes is that Zac's net worth ballooned by millions from ventures outside of acting, right around the time these yacht trips became routine. The timing is just too convenient. He wasn't booking the kind of blockbuster roles that would justify those leaps in wealth, yet somehow his lifestyle stayed consistently luxe.
Go to Cannes, France, and get on these yachts and do things with billionaires that they would not do if they weren't getting paid. One person said, "Can't Zac get a gig on OnlyFans?"
Insiders whisper that the real payday wasn't Hollywood, it was the yachts. And the question everyone keeps circling back to is what exactly was Zac doing on those boats that paid so well? Industry buzz suggests there's a Svengali behind it all, a shadowy figure pulling Zac's strings.
Sadly, this is not surprising to me. Now, I don't think Zac is going to create an OF page anytime soon because yachting is a lot more elite than that, and you make a lot more money.
A Svengali, by definition, is someone who exerts extreme control, often using manipulation, money, and fear to keep their subject in line. In Zac's story, that Svengali has a name, Mohammed Al-Turki. The talk in town is that Al-Turki isn't just some wealthy Saudi film producer. Insiders whisper he's the gatekeeper, the one who decides which yachts Zac boards, which elites he's seen with, and even which film roles slide across his desk.
Not only is the yachting industry creepy AF, as the worker, these situations can cause feelings of shame or regret, and sometimes the allegation that someone might be a yacht person is weaponized against them, whether it's true or not. Now, I do want to make the distinction here and say that there shouldn't be an inherent shame in the work itself. At the same time,
blind items dating all the way back to 2012 place Zac and Al-Turki together at Cannes, yacht parties, and luxury retreats. Photos show them side by side more often than the public realizes. Word behind the scenes is clear. Al-Turki isn't a casual friend, he's the handler, the one who books Zac for those with enough money and influence to demand his presence. Rumors in the circle say there was a time when Zac tried to walk away from the yacht life. He'd had enough of the endless parties, the shady characters, the constant travel, but insiders whisper that his handler wasn't about to let his golden goose fly free. Zac was simply too valuable, too profitable.
This work is still highly stigmatized in our society, and that is oftentimes used against.
The story goes that Zac's resistance wasn't met with understanding. It was met with punishment. Blind items claim that discipline came in the form of intimidation, pressure, and even threats. Some versions hint at physical altercations. And while I can't confirm that with my own eyes, I can point to the suspiciously timed accidents, the repeated injuries, and the unexplained rehab stints that followed his supposed attempts to pull away. The pattern is eerie. Every time Zac distances himself, something happens. An injury, a scandal, a mysterious hospitalization. It's as if the moment he takes one step out, the machine yanks him 2 steps back in.
Workers, and in this case, these high-profile workers. So with considerations of their reputation, along with their physical safety, as I mentioned earlier, the stakes are high. So yeah, the concern people have for Zac being tied to all of this is definitely understandable. Even if Zac wasn't engaging in—
Let's talk about the infamous jaw incident. Zac went public with a story that he slipped while running in socks, hit a fountain, and shattered his jaw. At first, fans accepted it, but as the details trickled out, the timeline didn't add up. Reddit sleuths pointed out that his recovery was far shorter than what a shattered jaw would realistically require. Photos from around that time showed inconsistencies. His jaw didn't appear wired shut long enough, and some images suggested he'd had cosmetic reconstruction that didn't match the slip and fall narrative. Whispers online hint that the fountain story was just that, a story. Hollywood chatter claims this was no accident at all, but rather a message to keep Zac in line. After all, his jaw injury just so happened to appear during a period when blinds suggested he was resisting his handler's control. Too neat, too polished, too coincidental. Fans who followed Zac's career agree. The jaw story is one of the biggest red flags in his timeline. It's not just about a clumsy fall, it's about the possibility that his injuries weren't accidents at all, but warnings from those who profit most off him.
Work on the high seas, it doesn't sound like an environment that would be conducive to sobriety, especially for someone who has a history of relapse and self-destruction. I mean, this summer he was spotted heading onto a yacht the same day as his high-profile ex, Vanessa Hudgens, was leaving the hospital with her newborn baby. So is it reaching to think that there might be a link here, that he sees yachting as part of his addiction/coping mechanisms? But it's not like Vanessa having a baby is enough to throw Zac off the wagon on its own. The truth is, Zac has been struggling for a long time, and all of the signs have been hiding in plain sight.
Remember the infamous pool incident in Ibiza? The official story was that Zac dove into shallow water, swallowed too much, and had to be rushed to the hospital. Simple, right? Except the more you look at it, the stranger it becomes. There are multiple versions of this story floating around. Some say Zac was with friends who immediately rushed to help him. Others say it was the villa staff who found him. And then there's a version where 2 security guards dragged him out. Why are there 3 different versions of the same event? If it were really just a clumsy dive, wouldn't the details be crystal clear? Hollywood chatter claims this was just another polished cover story, a neat excuse to explain away something far darker that went down during yacht season. And honestly, it's not the first time Zac's hospitalizations have felt less like accidents and more like cleanups. The talk in town is that Ibiza wasn't about a pool mishap. It was about an incident tied directly to the powerful men around him. If you followed blind items as long as I have, you start to see the same names pop up over and over again. And when it comes to Zac, the thread always leads back to one person, Mohammed Al-Turki. Every blind about Zac's yacht connections, his suspicious sobriety coach, his disappearances, they all circle back to Al-Turki. One blind even claimed his supposed sober coach wasn't hired to protect him, but planted there by Al-Turki to keep tabs on him. Imagine that the one person you trust to guide your recovery is secretly answering to the very man accused of exploiting you. That's control on another level. When I read those blinds, I couldn't help but connect the dots. Every time Zac looks like he's pulling it together, something brings him right back into Al-Turki's orbit. And the blinds paint a chilling picture. Zac isn't free, he's tethered, with the leash held tightly in someone else's hand. Here's where it gets even messier. Cannes. On the surface, the Cannes Film Festival is all flashing cameras, glittering gowns, and prestigious premieres. But insiders whisper there's a whole other side to Cannes, one that doesn't make it onto red carpets. Industry buzz suggests Cannes doubles as a hub for yacht arrangements. Modeling agencies recruit young men and women under the promise of work in France, only for them to find out their real work happens on billionaires' yachts, docked in the harbor. One former insider, Elie Nahas, even admitted this underworld exists, and his confessions line up with years of blinds pointing to Zac's name. And guess what? Whenever Cannes yacht season hits, Zac mysteriously appears, whether it's photos of him on a boat, random vacations, or new film connections that suddenly pop up. Coincidence or connection? To me, it looks less like Zac just loves the south of France, and more like he's part of the machinery that runs beneath Cannes' polished surface. Now here's where the web really tangles. Lindsay Lohan. Insiders whisper that Lindsay got pulled into the exact same orbit. Multiple blinds place her in Al Turki's circle, and sometimes even on the same yachts as Zac. One gossip note even painted a humiliating picture. Zac described as like a panting lapdog at Al Turki's feet, while Lindsay was paraded alongside him as the evening's entertainment. Think about that. Two stars from completely different backgrounds, different reputations, and yet they both end up under the same handler, on the same yachts, playing the same roles. Hollywood chatter claims that this overlap proves it's not random, it's systematic. Al Turki doesn't just recruit one star, he gathers a whole roster, keeping them close, keeping them compliant, and parading them when needed. And Zac? He was right there in the mix, trapped in the same cycle that pulled Lindsay down. Hollywood chatter loves to remind us of Zac's summer romance with Michelle Rodriguez back in 2014. The tabloids sold it as a spontaneous fling, two stars letting loose under the Mediterranean sun. But insiders whisper that it wasn't romance at all. It was arrangement. Both Zac and Michelle were spotted boarding the yachts of Gianluca Vacchi, the Italian billionaire known for his flashy lifestyle, wild parties, and constant stream of celebrity guests. Word behind the scenes is that Zac and Michelle weren't just there for love, they were presented. A package deal flown into Sardinia and paraded for the elites like prized possessions. And when you think about it, doesn't that explain why their relationship fizzled as quickly as it began? It wasn't built on real connection. It was a yacht summer, temporary, transactional, and staged for the cameras to sell a narrative. One of the most telling parts of this whole puzzle is how Zac always seems to walk away from yacht trips with something. Photos from Saint-Tropez show him leaving with a massive green Bottega Veneta bag, so heavy that assistants had to load it onto the boat for him. To the untrained eye, it looks harmless, a shopping spree, maybe a splurge on vacation. But insiders whisper that those weren't gifts. They were payment. Think of it like a paycheck disguised as luxury. Instead of a wire transfer, you get your fee in the form of high-end clothes, accessories, or watches. That way, if anyone asks, it looks like shopping, not a business transaction. And here's the kicker. Word in the circle is that Zac's wardrobe and sudden influx of luxury items often coincided with these yacht trips. Connect the dots, and the pattern looks less like retail therapy and more like compensation. Rumors in the circle say the real reason Zac can't leave this world behind is simple: blackmail. Insiders whisper that his handler has dirt on him. Maybe photos, maybe details from his lowest points, maybe secrets from rehab. And those secrets are the chains. The talk in town is that whenever Zac tries to step away, the leash gets yanked with a reminder: we own you. That's why every time he disappears from the yacht scene, he always comes right back. Smiling in new photos, standing next to the same men, like nothing ever happened. It's the oldest trick in the book: keep someone compliant by holding something over their head. And for Zac, who's had his fair share of struggles, it wouldn't take much leverage to keep him locked in. To me, that explains the cycle better than anything else. He's not there by choice. He's there because he has no choice. Now let's talk rehab. On paper, Zac's stints in treatment look like a star battling addiction and trying to get healthy. But when you line up the timelines, the coincidences are too glaring to ignore. Hollywood chatter claims that Zac's trips to rehab often line up with yacht seasons, suspicious accidents, or moments when blinds suggest he pushed back against his handler. In other words, rehab wasn't just recovery, it was reset. A way to pull him out, clean him up, and then slot him right back in. One blind even suggested that the substances weren't just Zac's weakness, they were his shackles. If you keep someone hooked, you keep them dependent. And if they're dependent, you keep them controllable. Insiders whisper that the rehab cycle wasn't about curing Zac, it was about keeping him on a leash, always just fragile enough to stay in line. Industry buzz suggests Mohammed Al Turki's reach goes far beyond the decks of yachts. Over the years, he's quietly climbed Hollywood's ladder, producing films, cozying up to A-listers, and securing a seat at the most exclusive events. He's no longer just the man behind the curtain. He's the man in the room, shaking hands with studio heads and award show committees. Insiders whisper that Zac's involvement in certain projects wasn't coincidence. Word behind the scenes is that film roles would magically appear whenever Zac was most closely tied to Alturkey. Think about it. Zac disappears into yacht season, paparazzi catch him in Europe with the handler, and weeks later, his name is suddenly attached to a film or major endorsement. To me, it feels less like luck and more like leverage. A trade-off. The elites get access to Zac, and Zac gets rewarded with Hollywood opportunities that keep his career afloat. It's a cycle that benefits everyone, except Zac himself, who's left with the constant reminder that his career isn't fully his own. The most recent chatter paints a bleak picture. Zac is breaking down under the weight of it all. Whispers online hint that he feels trapped, exhausted, and emotionally fractured. Word is, the pressure of living two lives, the polished Hollywood actor and the hidden yacht boy, is wearing him thin. Photos fuel the whispers. One day he looks gaunt and drained, almost unrecognizable from the teen idol we all knew. Days later, he appears on a red carpet looking sculpted, styled, and almost too perfect, like someone rushed to put him back together. Fans notice the flip-flop, and the speculation has only grown louder. Is Zac even in control of his own image anymore? Or is someone carefully managing every rise and fall? Insiders whisper that these sudden shifts aren't random, they're calculated. When Zac looks low, it signals the toll of the yacht life. When he reemerges looking pristine, it signals a narrative reset orchestrated by the very handler who keeps him tethered. It's not just a physical breakdown, it's the unraveling of a man who knows the world sees only half of who he really is. At the end of the day, this story is bigger than Zac Efron. It's about a system, a machine that takes fresh-faced Disney kids, blockbuster hopefuls, and rising stars, and runs them through a cycle of control, indulgence, and exploitation until there's nothing left but a hollow shell of who they used to be. The whispers around Zac expose just how deep that machine goes. The yachts, the handlers, the blackmail, the expensive perks, the punishments, the suspicious injuries. It's all connected, and Zac just happens to be one of the clearest examples. This matters because Zac isn't alone. He's part of a larger pattern where Hollywood doesn't just sell dreams, it sells people. And when those people push back, the system has a way of making sure their story doesn't add up. So when we look at Zac, his cracked jaw, his hospital trips, his sudden yachts, his drained red carpet smiles, we're not just looking at one man's misfortune, we're looking at the mask slipping on Hollywood itself. So where does this leave Zac Efron? Insiders whisper he's close to a breaking point. Either he disappears from Hollywood for good, or he fights back against the handler's grip. The talk in town is that 2025 could be his make-or-break year. Will he stay silent and let the yacht cycle continue? Will he flip the script and reclaim his career? Or will we see another mysterious accident that raises more questions than answers? One thing's for sure, the leaks have cracked open a door and people are watching. If Zac makes a move, it could change how Hollywood protects its elite secrets forever.